Hey, sports historians, we're on fire with the Uninterrupted series. We're going to keep it coming, this time with Chris McGee. You might know him as Geeter. That's right, he rose from Crespi to Cal State Northridge to the AVP to the Lakers to his ultimate place of honor as the champion of the East Bay 74-28 shootout. Chris Geeter McGee, 87 minutes straight. Let's do it. Geeter, Uninterrupted, from January 23 of 2020.
I love how your foot's up. Okay. 3, 2.
Shot. Bucket. 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 Was there any doubt?
I love that you crushed that. That's you, buddy, right there. Man, MV.
That's a good start.
MV.
So we've decided to go with the video podcast as well.
Love it.
And
Love it.
thus
Cool.
your shot gets recorded, you see. And
I
now
appreciate
you have
that.
some talking to do to my cousin, our mutual associate, Mike Boley.
Michael Boley, one of my dear friends.
He didn't knock down his shot, Geeter.
Which, by the way, bothers him for sure.
It bothers him a lot. He's called me a few times to say
He wants to reshoot that.
not only reshoot that, but the whole interview. He says, I'll redo the whole interview if I get another chance at that. And I said, well, you look good. We'll clean it up.
What was
Let's
Michael's
edit.
best sport? Would you say it was baseball?
He was really good in baseball. He was
Volleyball?
particularly good in volleyball, in tennis. Mm-hmm. He had his most success, but I think basketball. I think if if the right
A lot of us
situation-
growing up in that time, basketball was
Yeah,
our sport.
that was
Volleyball was just kind of like
that
you
was
did
my
it
thing
after.
too.
Yeah.
I think if he would have been in the right situation, like we went out to College of the Desert at the same time, and you know who the coach was? Gar Foreman,
Really?
the general manager of
of
the Chicago
course.
Bulls. He was our
Crazy.
coach, and so then it just kind of
Yeah.
didn't completely work out. I remember I tore up my leg and
Yeah.
then just came home and started working.
And that was it.
And MB stayed out there, I think, for a year playing, but
And then
for
started
whatever
playing
reason,
volley.
it didn't. I wanted to reference something. See these?
Hop champs? IHOP champs?
So this is
What's
some
that
good
say?
Catholic school ball.
Yeah.
Because IHOP's not far from here, and
Yep.
St. Jerome was hosting a tournament. That was Marley on my basketball team leading us to this championship.
Before I took
So
my
our
shot,
producer, Marley, yep.
Marley was
She had-
shooting, and I could tell she's obviously
Baller.
was a baller back in the day.
And she got that assist.
Did you play volley too?
A little bit.
A little bit?
Yeah, a little bit.
More hoops?
Yeah, there's a
Yeah,
good
so did
story
Michael
there.
Jordan.
Her high school coach.
What's that guy
was,
doing
She
now?
was clearly the best player.
I
It was like
thought.
Venice High, and he just forgot to put her name on the list.
Stop it.
And she got a little ticked, and she goes, fine, I'll just start with basketball. And she didn't play.
Instead of play volleyball. It was really stupid.
Oh, man. Can we go back in time?
Hilarious.
That's what I wanted.
Hilarious.
I have a lot of do-overs.
Same.
I'm trying to think, Geeter, where you and I might have first met, and it might have been when I was running over our little AAU beach players to get out on the AVP court, maybe?
Yeah, but
But
we
you were in the
knew each other
VBC.
way before then, but
Yeah.
just didn't, all the connections with the Boley family and the
Yeah.
Lennon family. And, back in the club volleyball days, I worked with Tim Jensen for years.
They were Venice Backyard.
Yeah.
Him and
Lee, his wife.
and somebody else. Who else was there? Jensen was there, and
Jared Elliott.
Jared Elliott. They
So
both played
Tim
in the
Jensen and
backyard.
Jared Elliott started Westside Volleyball Club.
Sure.
I ended up coming in when Jarrett moved on to college coaching and ran it with Tim.
Gotcha.
Yeah,
Okay.
so I'd always come across you then and stuff like that. But
Yeah.
when we first started to talk again was actually at Leonard Armato's event, I want to say, the World Series of Beach
World
Volleyball.
Series, yep.
And you were bringing over the AAU
Bringing over
championships that would be on
bringing
center
those.
court, and,
Yep.
and I would announce them, which I always love to do.
No doubt. No doubt.
We had a funny story about that, me and you. I don't know
Yes.
if you remember. Millie's first ever beach volleyball tournament, she was 9 years old,
That's
was
right.
the AAU championships. She
Millie.
lost 21-0 to a girl named Izzy from Arizona who won that national championship
Sure.
that year. Fast forward to last year.
Do you remember
She
when you
beat
came
Izzy.
by? Oh, she did?
2 years later
Boy,
at the AAU tournament, and I went to the dad, and I was like, man, I just want, hey, I'm Geeter. He's like, oh, I know you are. We're going back forward. He's like, Izzy beat my daughter 21-0 a couple years ago. And he's like, that was you? He totally remembered.
Hilarious.
Izzy ended up winning in the finals against Millie in that same tournament, but she did beat her. So I've always told parents, like,
It can happen.
it can happen
Did you also
fast.
tell parents when we passed after that 21-0 what you said?
What'd I say?
It's something to the effect of 21 dick. You
Yeah.
can't even try and do that. and I was gassing.
I did say 21 dick.
And
Dude,
then,
I was.
and
They,
then-
they-
yeah.
Listen, my wife and Matt Boyce. We were playing with Matt Boyce's daughter Taylor. They didn't want to text me because I was over on the stage. They didn't. I was getting no updates. They didn't want to tell me it was 21-0.
And it's the 10 and unders.
Yeah.
And it's a kumbaya. at
Hey, a
that
year
point.
later, she lost in that championship
She said that-
match to Thais and the girl from Texas.
I called that game from the
Yeah.
beach house.
Yeah, that was actually a
and,
really good game.
And it was a great game.
Yeah.
And I remember watching you
Layla.
were as much
Thais
as
and
fun
Layla.
to watch as the players.
Yeah, it was.
You were pacing a little bit.
Everyone was heckling me.
A little bit.
Yeah, it's tough, man, watching your own kid. I can announce anybody's games,
Yeah.
but it's tough when it's your own kid.
Yeah.
You know.
Speaking of which, born in what, 71 or 72?
Born in 71 in the Valley.
So 71.
Crespi High School, the pride of the Valley.
You know who won the NBA title in 71? The year you were born?
Well, the Knicks won it in 70. The Lakers won it in 72.
Very good.
Knicks won it in 73. They shouldn't have.
Uh-huh. This one's a little off, but it makes sense once you know.
I know, because it's not the Celtics.
No.
And I just saw this the other day, and now it's going to drive me crazy. It wasn't the Bucks, was it? Was it Kareem?
It was.
Yeah,
Because
Kareem
he
and
had
the
just
Bucks.
won 68.
Yeah.
68, 69, 70 at UCLA or
Yes.
something like that?
It's amazing.
Or
And with
two-
the big
or
O.
1 year in,
By the
and
way,
then he said,
they
yeah.
also snapped the next year the Lakers' 33-game win streak.
That's right. It was them. That's that. See that picture to your right?
Oh, there it is.
So that's one of my favorite pictures because I got it at my favorite eatery,
Oh, my God,
which
how
is
cool
Der
is this?
Wiener Schnitzel.
Did you know Bill Sharman at all? I'm sure you guys
Yeah, I
did.
did.
What a great man.
What a great man. Yeah.
Oh,
And
by
I
the way,
was
it's his
so proud
idea
of
to do
that.
shoot-arounds.
Bill Sharman did a lot for the
Yeah,
sport.
he was a big-time innovator. People don't realize that.
You know something else about Bill Sharman? He was called up to the Brooklyn Dodgers as a minor leaguer, and he was on their bench when Bobby Thompson hit that shot.
By the way, I have heard that.
That's wild.
I've had heard that.
He got called
'Cause
up from AAA or something.
Their foundation with his wife Joyce, they honored James Worthy one night, and it was when we first started our network 7 years ago, and I ended up presenting for James, and I heard that very story. It's so
Isn't that
funny.
wild?
I know, that's wild.
When I was really little,
Shot heard around
it
the
was
world,
for
is that what they
that
called
for
it?
that team. I think 8 or 9 years old.
Yeah.
My godfather was really good friends with Bill Sharman, and so we get to go to Laker practices, and they'd have them at LMU.
Yeah.
That's where they practice sometimes, and we got to go to his house after, which is an apartment in the Marina Towers, and I go in his trophy room while the adults talked, and I mean, being 8, 9 years
Oh my
old.
God, it's the greatest trophy room of all time.
Yeah.
By the way, you know who's on this team? And I want to ask you this because Wayne Boley will tell you this. And my dad would have been 85 yesterday, by the way, if he was still alive. They both said the same thing, and I always told Wayne this. Keith Erickson was the greatest athlete they knew. Did you hear that growing up?
John Wooden said that about Keith Erickson.
Dude, he was like all-world paddle tennis, like could have played for the Dodgers, like
Wild.
shortstop apparently, and like
Every
hoops,
every time you hear
volley.
that, which made the backside of his 2-2-1 press click because Keith Erickson played in that.
Yeah.
So he could gamble and retreat, and it made it that much.
One of the nicest guys too.
Such a nice guy.
Yeah.
So you grew up in the Valley.
Yeah, grew
out
up in
there.
the Valley.
One of the things I think I heard, like you grew up around sports and so
Yeah.
forth, but the way you would you'd call your own play-by-play in your games, which that's me.
Who told you that? Did I tell you that?
That is my life. I do my research.
I was gonna say.
But
Who told you that?
Geeter, that was my life. Like
Yeah,
I would.
I know,
And
man.
then you talked about having a front yard and a backyard venue,
Yes.
and I had the same.
Yeah.
I would only do certain sports in the backyard, and then some
So
in the front
true.
yard.
I had the same thing. And you know what's funny about that? I would do it. I had like a baseball league, a football league, and a basketball league. I had names written down. It was under my bed. I'll never forget. I would do drafts. I had made up guys. And when a neighbor would come over to play, I'd be so bummed because it'd be like 65, 62 in the fourth. And I'm just going to the bathroom real quick. And I'd go and write it down like 3 minutes left. Come outside, play.
Wow.
And I have to do that game over. What I did not know was when I got older, my mom, Lil, she's still alive, and the neighbor Dolly, who lived across the street, and Dolly would take care of us a lot. And my mom and Dolly they told me like when I was, I don't know, in college, they're like, oh, we watched you all the time. We'd always laugh to each other because you'd be talking during. I thought no one knew.
Mm-hmm.
They knew.
My mommy said
They knew.
Just watch and enjoy.
Yeah.
Now, were you on the roster as Chris McGee,
Yeah.
or did you have a made up name for yourself?
That's a great question.
I always put myself into
No one's ever
the
asked me
game
that.
against other people.
Yeah, no one's ever asked me that. I remember the two best players in the league. One guy's name was Jim, and the other was Washington. And I'm okay. Washington. I don't know if I was watching Welcome Back, Kotter or what was going on, but I'm trying to remember if I would insert myself. Yeah, I was on the team, but I wasn't the best guy.
Okay.
Like Jim was the best player, In baseball, Washington was the best player in hoops.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but they both play. You play multiple sports.
And how did this draft work? Was there a commissioner?
No, it was like I had a bedspread of all NBA teams, so I would do this, and this, and then with baseball, I would just do the same thing.
Brilliant.
Yeah. Isn't that crazy?
But
football, like running on my front lawn and like just all of a sudden flying onto the ground, like the neighbors must have thought, who is this? Yeah. I mean, if there could only be video.
Throw it up.
Yeah.
Try to make a one-hand catch.
Totally.
Yeah. The game.
How far were we throwing it? Like 5 yards? I thought it was like a bomb.
Thought it was. But you could practice a lot in your house on your couch, or on your own bed diving, and then you just take it to the outside.
You know what's great? My brother's 5 years older, Matt. We would tell my parents horror stories when we were later in life, like past college, and we'd go bring girlfriends home, whatever. And my mom, I'm like, I can't believe you're telling us. But we told them, we're like, when you guys would leave, like you'd see the car lights go out and gone. It was like clear the living room, carpet football on the knees, and fights and brawls, and I mean.
That's when I knew
growing up.
I knew my son was going to be a pretty decent player because we would play on our knees volleyball with like one of those plastic balls you would get in the supermarket, and he would tip over the coffee table, and that would be the net.
That'd be the net.
And then he'd play on his feet, but the rest of us has to play on our knees, and he drew brackets. I mean, he's got to be like 6. He drew out brackets so that we would go through these brackets.
When did you start playing?
It was always around in my family, in my backyard. I always had a net up.
See, that's the thing. You were around it growing up.
All the time.
Yeah.
And so,
which I think kids
always
now.
got touches on the ball and so forth. Now, your first entry, if I'm not mistaken, was at
if you remember,
elementary school or something, right?
Well, if you'll remember, high school volleyball, everyone didn't have it for boys until 86. I was a sophomore. I mean, you had it out here. Samo, Pally.
We started a team in 82.
Loyola, yes.
My senior year.
Crespi didn't get it till my sophomore year, but my 8th grade teacher at a small little Catholic school, St. Catherine's, name was Theresa Denton.
St. Catherine of Siena?
Yes.
Uh-huh.
She played volleyball at Cal State Northridge. She was probably 25 years old, so she started a team so we could be in the Catholic League, and we went all the way to the semifinals. She taught us the right way to play.
So what year would that have been? 80?
Dude, 85, I want to say I graduated.
So right up,
85.
Over there somewhere is about a team from 86, and I was coaching by this time at St. Mark's School.
Oh, my gosh.
And there's a team up on that board that went to the finals, and Bob Savertlik
that is amazing.
Is in the picture. It's like over there. But anyways, Bob Savertlik came to be the celebrity guy that handed out medals.
That's awesome.
And so we went all the way to the finals, 86, and we set one kid the whole way around.
Isn't that amazing?
Because he could jump and he was good, and the rest of the kids weren't that good.
And we just rotated around. There wasn't like a 5-1 setter coming in. It was we rotate all around and just you're in the middle, you set.
One setter, and we set the one kid the whole time.
Oh, my God, that's beautiful. Yeah, so she was awesome, and she taught us the right way, technically. Theresa Denton. She got married, so the married name was Denton.
And she played a little or something?
She played in Northridge, Cal State Northridge. She knew how to play. Her nephew actually played for Pepperdine. Guadino was the last name, played for Marv, but she was awesome, and she kind of taught us how to play. And then fast forward 2 years, my sophomore year, and it's why I quit everything else except for hoops. Like, it was football, basketball, baseball at Crespi. And then my sophomore year, no more football, no more baseball. It was hoops and volleyball. And coach was Kevin Slattum, great guy, and another guy named Kenny Lynch who played with me at Northridge. We both made the varsity as sophomores.
Okay.
But still, it wasn't. I didn't play club. I loved it, but I didn't. It was basketball in the summer, so it wasn't like I was going to the beach and playing. So when I started Northridge, I was behind. Like, Matt Unger was a year ahead of me. Guy had been setting a 5-1 his whole life. He played triple A's. Like, I didn't know anything.
I was a pretty good player, and I had no idea that club sports even existed.
No idea.
I didn't know what that meant.
Yeah.
I just played, we play whatever sport was in season.
Yeah.
And especially for boys, didn't even know.
It's interesting, Denny. My probably best year setting of my life was after college. I was probably 25 and a couple years out and was playing in like Balboa Bay leagues that Charlie Brandt ran and was setting real well. And they sent a group of us to Colombia to represent the USA because it was a thing called the Pacific Ocean Games, and USA didn't want to send their A or B team. So they said, well, who just won USA Nationals? And it was the Paul Mitchell guys. So we went, and we won the gold medal, and I set, and it was funny. I was like, God, I wish it was like I was finally good and there was nothing to play. I wasn't even playing anymore. It was just like for fun. You know what I mean? Like in college, I was learning the game.
Right.
In a backup.
I think a lot of us.
So it was interesting.
Like I got my best years were probably 19 20 years old.
Think about it.
Could have used that in basketball team in high school.
I used to always say this when I started announcing beach volleyball. It always amazed me because back in those days, I just remember the 4-man tour was died out, and a lot of my friends who were really good volleyball players at like 28 years old, so 4 years at the AVP, 5 years grinding 29, they would retire to go get real jobs. And I remember saying, like, man, imagine if MJ had to retire at 28, he'd have 1 ring. Like, it was just like, in our sport, that always bothered me that the best players, so many good players, had to go get jobs at 28 years old in their prime.
In their real estate.
You're nowhere near what you are at 28. You are at what you're 20. At 22, you're good, but you're not what you are at 28.
No way.
Mentally, it's
All
where the
of it.
physical and it all comes together. So that always bummed me out about our sport, and I learned it at a pretty young age. I watched all my friends retiring as I was announcing.
You played hoops at Crespi?
Yeah, played hoops at
All
Crespi.
CIF guy?
All CIF, all
No, you're
Valley.
not mixing up all CIF with all league, are you?
All league, all Valley, got it all down. I got hoops, volley.
Nice. Okay.
Went into the Hall of Fame.
What was your
I don't know
game
if I
at-
went into the Hall of Fame at Crespi because I ended up having a job on TV, or if
But all
Or
CIF's
if the-
legit. Now,
I had it all.
Did the Carbino boys were at Crespi?
Carabino,
They were
So-
really good early 80s
Chris Nikovich, Joe Carabino, that was part of the team that
They were really
made
good.
me fall in love with basketball.
Same here.
Paul Muff was
You're
their
like in
coach.
8th grade watching.
I was even younger.
Yeah.
And
That was
my
how I did it,
brother
yeah.
was going into Crespi, and Chris Nikovich was a sophomore. Joe Carabino was a senior. It was the best team I'd ever seen. They lost to like Kenny Fields and Verbum Day.
Verbum Day.
I was at
Kenny
the game.
Fields.
I cried.
That team.
I know.
Cliff Pruitt used to bring up
Yes,
the ball.
I cried.
Cliff Pruitt was 6'9", bringing up the ball.
I cried.
That was that. Now
And they
that was the
lost.
best high school team I might have seen up until the Ball brothers were all
Yeah,
together
at
Chino Hills.
Chino Hills.
Right. But
Yep.
that Verbum Day team was something else. And I was at St. Bernard, and we were really strong.
Yeah.
For a number of years. And Crespi, we're in the same league.
Yeah.
And so those it's just fun. It's so fun when the gym's packed.
Jim is packed. St. Bernard's actually beat Crespi in an unbelievable game when I was a freshman at Westchester High School. And it was a semifinal or quarterfinal. St. Bernard's had some unbelievable teams.
Really good teams.
Verbum Day had some great teams. St. Anthony's.
Long Beach.
Yep, had
Yep.
some great teams back in that day.
Those are fun days. And you know the player that really lit it up for me was Leon Wood. And
Leon Wood?
He was playing at St. Monica.
Yeah, Leon
and
Wood.
there was no 3-point line, or
Yeah.
else he would have put the state scoring record.
I know. Think about that.
out
Well, it's
of
funny,
reach.
now that LeBron is only 45 points behind Kobe, moving into third place all time, so it'll probably happen Saturday night in Philadelphia. We were looking at Kareem yesterday with 356 points, and you're thinking, Kareem had what, a couple threes in his career?
Yeah.
He did that with no three. He wasn't shooting threes. Karl Malone, second. Karl wasn't shooting threes.
No.
So pretty amazing to think how many buckets those guys got.
You know, just on the basketball, Michael Jordan always gets the nod as the greatest, and I got it. Now LeBron's getting into that
Yeah.
conversation. But I always fight a little bit for Magic
Me
because
too.
of how he passed
Me
the ball.
too.
But I'm always upset that Kareem's never in that argument.
Yeah,
I mean,
you're not alone. You know
he's
who
put
that
the scoring
bothers?
things so far out of reach.
Do you know who that bothers? Guys who played with Kareem.
Yeah, like big game.
It drives Big Game James crazy. Now, Big Game played with Jordan as well. He tells some great stories. They won a
Oh, that's
title
right,
together at
North
North Carolina.
Carolina.
Jordan's
Sure.
a freshman. But it's just it's interesting. Was it because it's not a sexy pick? Like, people don't really know how good he was. He wasn't an outgoing personality.
Right. He
But
didn't
by
get
the
that
way, he's
media
written
in his
13
day.
books or whatever. So you know what I mean? But like the media didn't love him back then because he was tough to get to know. He was guarded. And if you know his story and you've watched it on HBO, then you
can
know why.
understand why.
And it's silly that, I mean, they outlawed the dunk basically, right? Well, I mean, Kareem
'Cause of him.
was Kareem.
And you know that only set him onto his list as being the greatest scorer because he learned to get such touch around the rim without
around-
having to dunk.
I mean, you cannot. It's funny. Like, people just say, well, why don't you learn the sky hook because it's the most indefensible shot? But here's the thing: like, there's footwork to that shot, there's technique to that shot, and there's so much repetition that goes into that shot. Guys don't want to put in that kind of work. Kareem, it's insane to me that he doesn't get that love. By the way, he played in a day where guys didn't play 20 years, and he lasted 20 years. He won, 2 titles after 36 years old. He's in the top for blocks, for rebounds, for points all time. 6 MVPs.
And throw
6 titles.
and
People
remember,
forget he's got a title.
He
Like you mentioned,
years in
Milwaukee.
college. He
Yeah.
spent 4 years in college. He didn't get that early start like
I know.
a lot of the greats did.
My dad went to a game, back in the day. I'm sure you guys have all talked about this at some point. The freshmen weren't allowed to play varsity.
Oh, yeah.
So that UCLA team was like number 2 in the country, and Kareem beat them as a freshman. My dad was at the freshman varsity game.
That's an awesome game to be at. Think
about that. He just walked right in.
Defending champs.
I know. So,
and that team, I think, went undefeated that Kareem beat.
I listen.
It's wild.
I think I'll always say, as I look up at Jordan, listen, I'm fine giving Jordan the GOAT because I don't know. He changed. He brought the game global. He came at the right time. It was the perfect storm. The internet, everything was starting to start. The world was advancing, and I think he was a big part of basketball on the global stage, and so was Magic. The 6-0 in titles is pretty incredible, and just the Nike, everything that came with him. But you better put Kareem at 2, or you better have him on that Rushmore. And I just think it's wrong to not. It bothers me. And the game is different now. Numbers are different now. So you can't compare. I mean, LeBron's in year 17, never had a major injury. I mean, Jordan played, 13, 14 years.
Sure.
Like 2 of his best years, he's out playing minor league baseball.
They talk about the Dream Team 92.
Yeah.
But I followed closely that 84 team.
That 84 team. Bobby Knight.
Because Leon Wood was set an Olympic
Didn't Barkley get cut?
record.
There's famous guys that got cut. Hall of Famers got cut.
Bobby Knight said no more dunking because Barkley was dominating the trials.
Yeah.
And on the very next transition, Barkley dunked and looked
that
at night.
That's
and that
so
was
funny.
Like his last time.
That's it.
Yeah.
That team had Ewing.
They had everybody.
MJ.
I loved that team. I thought was
loved that team too. I'm with you. 92 is always special because it was the first Dream Team. But if you picked a best all-time Olympic team before they were pros, I don't know how you would compare to 84.
You can't.
Yeah.
I'd like to see how many future Hall of Famers were on that team. There's a few. So you finish up at Crespi. You go to Cal State Northridge.
So I was being recruited at Crespi for basketball.
Okay.
And I actually quit volleyball my senior year for one day.
Oh.
And I always credit Kevin Slattum, the coach. I'll never forget this. Paul Muff, who passed away in 1994, was Joe Carabino's coach. He was I was his last varsity basketball player. The last MVP he ever gave was to me, so I always take a lot of pride in that. Paul was really helping me get into colleges to play hoops. So I was being recruited by a lot of the D3s and D2s, and LMU was the only D1 that really I took a visit and said hello, and it was more of a walk-on opportunity. So I was really into trying to play basketball. And I just couldn't focus on volleyball. And I went to Coach Slattum and I said, Coach, I think I'm gonna go for this college basketball thing, and I want to thank you for everything. But we were tight. Like he was a great man, and he was like, Kevin was like, take a week, a week, and let's talk. One day, and I don't remember why it was that day. I went home. I was bored. Whatever it was, I went back to him the next day and said I'm in. And Kenny Lynch got recruited, and I got recruited with Kenny to Northridge, and I met John Price, came home and told my parents, I'm going to Northridge. They're like, hold on. All this work, they're sending me to classes to get the ACT up. Yeah, everything. Everything. I'm going to Northridge. John Price, I met him.
Jumping sports.
I met my soulmate.
Oh, wow. Smart coach, too, because,
totally.
The mind of an athlete, at least a top athlete, you have to understand that, and let that take its course, and then hopefully bring it back on. But if you're the coach and you say, make up your mind now, or this door is closed the second you go out, if you got a good athlete on your hand who's got a strong mind, they'll walk out that door.
Denny, I'm sure you would feel the same way in your life. You've probably had a lot of fortunate circumstances and people that backed you. When I look back on my career in TV, but my career growing up in sports, and I mentioned Theresa Denton, Kevin Slattum, Paul Muff, John Price, my college coach, I've been really lucky. Like, those people took care of, they put me in good positions. I think that helped me. And it's the same thing with TV, like Steve Simpson and Tom Fuhrer taking a liking to me at Fox Sports, and John Hefner and all these guys. And then it's, Billy Mack and Jim Watson, broadcasters like taking you under their wing, and Lou Riggs, who probably taught everybody that's ever been a broadcaster. All these people put you in a position.
And it sets you up for success later.
Yeah.
Especially, I think your experience at Cal State Northridge, as I was looking into that, you learned to be a team player there.
I had to be. Listen, I was a star like everybody else when you go to college. I was a star in Little League, and a star on my basketball team and volleyball team when I was at Crespi. And then I go, and I was not a star at Northridge. And I'm a role player at best, a backup. But what was interesting, I'll never forget, I had this picture, and we all used to get in the stance. We'd be down in the stance when we needed to side out. And I remember I had it on my wall for a long time. It was just a little Polaroid, but it was me and the 6-7 guys that were down the line. And I remember showing this to people later going, okay, that guy was the CIF Player of the Year. That guy was the City Player of the Year at Chatsworth. This guy was the player. And I'm like, everybody on this bench is all world. You know what I mean? So all everything. So that's what I think it helped me coaching-wise for sure. Understand that role player, that bench player, what they mean to a team. I was voted captain at Northridge, and I wasn't even a starter. That was, in my sophomore year, junior year. I guess when I look back, I go, I must have been doing something right.
And that's where you met Matt Unger?
Yeah, so Matty O was a year ahead of me. Coley Kyman was my year, and the three of us were best friends, still are today. And Matt actually got me the job basically at the AVP because he was playing. So Matt was a huge – and by the way, Matt and I would go watch film my freshman and sophomore year at Price's house and stuff in office, and Matt's the one who taught me everything about setting.
Matt, he used to play in
You've known him
in
forever.
the backyard championships. He went by Matt Anger there.
Matty
Matt Anger.
Matty O is a fiery.
He was fiery.
You got to remember. So Matt, for those people that don't know, volleyball. Matt was a small setter from Crespi High School and a phenomenal player, and was told by his brother was 2 years older, went and played for Kenny P at Santa Barbara. Kenny said, Matt, you're never going to play college volleyball. You're too small. Didn't get scholarship offers. Was just going to go play beach because no one wanted him. And John Price called him like 2 months before school started and said, love to have you, love to give you a scholarship. And it, you know what, John saw something. And that guy, without him, we don't go to the finals. Matt was location-wise as good as any setter. Canyon, good as all of them.
So you go to the finals in 93. 93.
Yeah.
And that's when 4 teams would make the finals.
Yeah.
And then it would be like a round robin?
No, you know what we did
what
then?
would it be?
I'll tell you what we do. So it's funny. It changed all through my years. My freshman year, it was called the WEVA, and we had an 8-team playoff, and the winner got to go to the Final Four as the West Coast rep, the winner of that playoff bracket. The second place finisher would be voted in, they said, as the 4th team.
Right.
It was the first year of rally scoring in the 5th game only. They put
I
don't know if you know this, they put a cap on it for only 1 year. 1990, there was a cap.
Okay.
We lost to USC, who won the national championship, 17-16 in the 5th. We served. They sided out through Neil Kaufman's hands. Leon DeRocher put it through his hands on a D. And they won 76. There was no, can you imagine that?
So that'll never
be. The game's not, I always tell Brian Ivey, that game's not official.
They'll be the only 17-16 final ever in the history of
So that was
volleyball.
The quarterfinals, and they went on to win the national championship. The next year they changed it to the 5th game you have to win by 2. So it was regular scoring, side-out scoring, until it got to the 5th game, and then it was rally. And we lost our first year to SC. Then we won that next year, went to the second round, lost. Then we went to our third year. We beat Long Beach State, who was number 1 in the nation, lost to Stanford to go to the Final Four, and then finally in our 4th year, we went all the way to finals. Back then, so we played Penn State first. UCLA put Ohio State. And what's funny is to become friends with all these guys later in life and play on the St. Paul Mitchell teams and beach and all this stuff. You learned how they did it and how we did it. We didn't know. We had never been to the Final Four. We spent all week on Penn State. All week. And we drubbed them. Al Skates and them never looked at Ohio State one time. All they did was work on Northridge. And they had a better plan, and they came in. We were at Pauley, by the way.
At Pauley.
Seeley and them kicked our ass. They were just too good. But I look at that team now, and I'm like, of course they beat us. They had like 7 Olympians. I mean, Stein was on the bench. They had Nygaard, Eric Sullivan, Kevin Wong, all Olympians.
Unreal.
Yeah.
Wow.
Seeley.
You still remember that game?
March 8th, 1993.
Isn't that wild?
It's the day I started drinking. No, I'm just kidding. I always say that. But, yeah.
Yeah, it's so interesting how accelerated athletes or almost any athlete, you certainly win. You remember your wins, but it's those championship losses.
Dude, you remember.
That stick with you.
Remember.
I was interviewing Jerry West at the school.
Jerry's tortured.
And he goes, there's not a day in my life I don't think about the 1959 NCAA finals because West Virginia lost to Cal.
By the way, NCAA.
He goes, not a day in my life.
Oh, I know.
And he was MVP of the Final Four, just like he was in '69 of the NBA Finals. I think he's the only guy to ever be on the losing team.
Think about this. Think of all the losses to the Celtics. Every single one of them. If he wins 3 of the 8, he's already an all-time. But you know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
it's different. Like I'll never forget 85. It's funny. I don't know if you've heard this from guys you know, but when I started working at the network is when I really realized it, because Byron and James, they all said the same thing. The ring they all covet the most is 85. Pat Riley will say it. Vidi will say it.
Burka, exercise the demon.
Because of what it meant to everyone before them. And I'll remember my dad how much it went. I
Meant
mean,
so much to us.
I remember beating the Celtics and how great it was, but 84 was more gut-wrenching than ever. Like, James threw the ball away in Game 2 to go up 2-0. Like, he still talks about it.
If Worthy didn't pull Rambis back, Rambis would have.
You know what I asked him?
McHale would have been.
You know what I asked him? The other day they're playing the Celtics, and I said it's a fish too. I said, what are your 2 greatest memories? Boston. He goes, losing in 1984 and then winning in 85. Because in 84, I mean, like, those guys, they don't forget. And James is like, that was my 4th ring. We were going up 2-0 to go home. We would have been up 2-0 at home. Like, so you goosebumps talking about, like, all those guys, man, it's like, it's pretty amazing.
We're talking about you learning to be a team player at Northridge and stuff, but you also were, I think, in training to be who you are today as an announcer. Because what did you form, the Matamaniacs?
Matamaniacs back in the day.
Instead of the Matadors.
Yeah.
And people would
Man,
rally
you really
around
do your research. That was Coley Kyman as well and Matt Unger. And you know how that started was we lost a bet my freshman year that the coaches made. Basketball, Pete Cassidy, John Price, they made a bet. They said, we'll play in a softball game against each other in the fall before the seasons had started. And then the losing team has to throw a party for the other team and dress up for one of their games.
Oh, that's
we had
great.
a lead going into the last inning, the 9th, and lost, which, by the way, still haunts me to this day. But
That
it was meant
softball
to
game.
be
Gotcha.
because the basketball team wouldn't have thrown a great party like we did, and they wouldn't have been able to do what we did. We then, fast forward 2 months, throw the best disco party in the history of Cal State Northridge in that night. So we were all in our disco gear. We went to the game.
Okay.
And I just let it. Like, we just ran in and I started doing cheers and all this goofy stuff. And it was Matamaniacs were born. They still do it now.
They still do it now.
They still do it now.
And do they call it Matamania?
Yes.
That is
Athletes
now
still do it.
That's legacy.
Right?
That's legacy. That's better than a statue. Oh, that's awesome.
Better than a statue.
That
That's
is
awesome.
beautiful. And then something else happened that I found, which I know has been seen, but I want to make sure we can break this down.
I have a feeling.
Given that
Is this Bob Barker involved?
It sure is.
Yeah.
Now, given that we're audio and a video podcast, I'll make you comment on the play-by-play.
The play-by-play here is because I can give you. There's a long version, but I'll give you a much shorter one.
So
for podcast sake.
Yeah. It's Price is Right.
So it's Price is Right, and I'll give you the quick. Let me give you the lead up to this moment because it's important. Okay. So a guy named Pete Michelli, who's a big-time agent, another guy named Darren Jones. You'll see them at the front because without them, I don't win. The TV always goes to them, and they're the ones giving me the numbers.
Yeah.
They watch The Price is Right every day.
Got it.
They ordered these tickets, 15 of them. Okay? So I'm going. Coley's in. We got a couple guys. We do a draft because we're like, listen, we only got 15. We got 80 guys who want to go, and there's 8 that are going. I mean, we're going. We're seniors. This is our time. We do a draft. We get 15 guys. Of course, we rig the draft so our boys go the whole time. But so we get up at 4 a.m. We're and listen, I'll say it now. Listen, Mom, I'm sorry. We're drinking 40s. we're getting out there and we're there. And to this day, I don't know why I was the first guy called. Apparently, they have people out there. So we're out there for 3 hours.
And you're entertaining, aren't
but
you?
all of our guys are. We got everyone doing the national anthem, 500 people. And I remember walking, and a lady stopped me and asked me a question about our group. And I told her about the earthquake had just happened. So I don't know. But then again, we're lined up. And you're lined up 400 people in a line, and a guy named Phil is in a chair just like you are with 2 Barker Beauties on his side, and he's got a thing right before you walk in. He said, "What's your name?" "I'm Denny Lennon from blah 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 Venice Backyard Championships," and whatever you want to say. And I'm like 13th in line of my guys, and my guys are giving the funniest. Coley Kyman goes into his ankle, and all the guys, he goes, "What's your name?" and what do you do? Why do you want to be here? Whatever he said to me, I go, "My name's Christopher Joseph McGee, and I just came to play ball, Phil." That's all I said.
Solid.
That's all I said.
Concise.
And I'm like, what does that even
Funny.
mean? Walked in. This is a true story, and you're going to see this in a second.
And this
is a true story. We're there. And the guy comes out, Roddy or whatever his name is. He's telling you like, hey, don't touch Bob. He's fragile. He's going through the whole thing. And he's like, listen, it's going to be really loud. And first of all, you're in this like studio and you're like, it looks so big on TV. It's like 6 feet. The ramp is, So I'm like, we're all sitting there and everyone's raging. And all of a sudden, he's like, it's going to be really loud. So the ladies will put up a board. You'll see a name. So make sure you look if you don't hear me because it's going to be electric in here. He's telling us. And a girl drops she drops a board.
The cue card?
And all I saw was ER. Just ER. It's a true story. And I thought, Christopher McGee. And I swear to God, I sat down and I got the gnarliest nerves. I thought I was going to throw up. Wow. And Keith Gibbs, basketball player, standing next to me. I grab him. He's like 6'8", but I grab his leg because he's standing still raging. I go, dude, I think they're going to call me. And he's like, what? And dude, I'm like, Denny, I am in a full panic. And here's the deal. You'll see this. When they call me, everyone thinks I trip. That's a Chevy Chase fall. Do you remember Chevy used to fall?
Absolutely.
Every single Saturday Night Live to open the show?
Gerald Ford.
That was my thing in college. I would always fake fall. Chevy Chase. We loved him. So that's why we have Team Fletch for 25 years.
Good.
So the night before, we're raging, and everyone's like, what do you do if you get called? And everyone's talking, and I'm like, dude, for sure Chevy fall. So when I get called here, you'll see me. That's a fake fall, and you see that old guy try to get me, and I popped up, and all of a sudden, I was like Madamania. That's why I'm breakdancing. I just started breakdancing.
Dancing?
The whole time.
Is so good.
Yeah.
God, that's deep intel.
That
is deep intel.
So you'll see.
So
I'm the first name called in the whole show.
Yeah.
Christopher McGee,
Here
come
he
on
comes.
down. And I was right. They're going to find me. Here I come. Fake. Fall. Boom. I'm on the ground. That guy guys will get me.
way.
I pop up. Yeah.
Oh, it's like,
Yeah. I lawnmower down. Next thing you know.
Look it.
Yeah, there I go.
And what's
And now I'm just like third base coaching it, waving people down. If you see, they'll show me a little bit.
that's so
oh,
good.
yeah. I'm waving her down. Now I'm dancing with her and hugging her.
And it was cold out because apparently.
But by the way, biggest goof ever. I'm wearing jorts and a sweatshirt around my waist. Still get heckled 30 years later.
I
this.
would, I would.
I don't care.
I was going to lay off of that.
Yeah.
So we move forward a little bit.
Move forward. Way later in the show because I can't win anything.
Right.
I win a Murray Feist 3-piece lamp set. I just go $1 more than this lady, $851 Bob.
And he is and Bob
And by the
Barker
way,
is
if
getting
you're listening to
agitated
me-
because
yeah.
he keeps going,
Yeah,
this is
he's
going to last forever.
and I'm like looking to my guys because I'm clueless on everything. Like,
but you got you.
These are all my
Barker.
guys. Yeah, Bob. And by the way, I'm calling him Bob. And I don't know if you know this, but
Yes.
there was a great movie when you and I were kids, The Blues Brothers.
Yeah.
And Dan
Hey,
Aykroyd.
Bob.
Hey, Bob.
Yep.
So that's why I'm calling him Bob the whole show.
Oh, man.
751. Murray Feist 3-piece lamp set was with me for 11 years until my fiance,
With you
who's now
for
my
11
wife, made me
years.
throw it out when we moved in together.
So you come up
If those lamps could tell stories.
and they're going to. What's this? This is too good.
That's a Mercury Grand Marquis.
And really,
Yeah.
did you drive this around?
So I don't know in this version because it's totally edited. My buddy put it up, but you'll see. So
you keep changing.
this
the
is
numbers.
how clueless I am.
So my wife knows this show.
I went to
she
39,000. But my first bid is 39,000.
Yeah.
For a Mercury. That's
It's
wrong.
a $10,000.
Yeah, yeah. But I think I'm winning because there's no beeping, there's no buzzing. So watch,
He's like,
So watch. I think you'll see this. This is the best part of the whole show. When it gets to 0 here, I start jumping around. And I'm
it's
celebrating. I haven't won anything yet. And I come back and Bob's like, where are you going? And I lean in and I go, I'm just heading for the car, Bob. And I switch the numbers. And so right now,
So
I think,
you're switching these numbers
switching
through.
the numbers. And you'll see Pete and Darren there.
This
They're
is
helping
so
me
good.
out. When Karch Karai got a hold of this, by the way,
Yeah.
he went up. He couldn't believe it. Everyone, 8 years after I'd done it, someone finally told him, look at me jumping around. There I am jumping around like a complete jackass.
You haven't
Yeah,
won anything.
heading for the car, Bob.
I thought
keep
you
going.
just were having
I say, it's heading for the car, Bob. And he goes, don't head for there yet. We're on our way, Bob. Heading for the car, Bob.
Oh, man.
So real quick, Karch grabs the mic at an AVP event to the whole crowd before the finals and tells the story and then puts it on the Jumbotron. So every few years it just pops up.
I thought.
Okay, so I'm all freaked out. I have 2 numbers right, which you don't see that part. So I have to change 3 numbers. So I changed the 9. I'm sorry, a 7 to a 9. I changed a 3 to a 1, 7 to a 9, and now this is where it's a miracle. I think Pete, we're still trying to this day figure out who got me. We think I accidentally back into the second 8 to a 6.
I would say this is the beginning of your broadcast career here.
Right here.
because you're owning the stage, right?
And here it goes. So, I mean, sweatshirt around the race is really an awful look with the jorts. But now we're getting close. So now I'm starting to get that nervous feeling again, Dan.
Yeah, here it comes.
Now it's coming. I'm going to go into a coach's stance.
So
we used to go into
so
coach's
it's
stance. Whenever we needed a
1960.
side out on the sideline, I would get our whole bench to do this. So now I'm in a coach's stance, and now I win.
So good.
So here's the thing. I
Don't
tell
touch
Bob,
Bob.
I look at Bob, and I go, I'm going down. And I go down to the ground, and I do the windmill kick, and he could not believe it. And then I go, mashed potato sprinkler straight into a handshake, which looks like it was coordinated. It was just one of the luckiest things of all time.
Oh, that well played.
Thank you.
Well played.
So the funny thing about this, after I'm sitting there on the side, you
Golly.
don't get to go back with your crew.
if we have people that are
Daddy,
just watching,
they're going to go nuts.
are just listening, it's important that they look that up.
Yeah.
It's just you just go Geeter.
Price is right.
Price is right.
When I won, you then go off to the side. I'm not with my boys for the next hour and a half, right? And the lady comes over to me and she goes, "What do you do?" And I'm like, well, I just got done playing volleyball at Northridge. I'm a waiter at Marie Callender's. And she's like, Bob just wanted you to know that was incredible. Blah, blah. I'm like, sweet, that's awesome. And they had me sign some things. You know, I walk out, and the whole next show knows I've won, and I got the pink slip to the car, and I'm running, high-fiving 500 people. There was no cell phones that day. So I pulled over to call my mom and dad on a payphone.
Oh, wow.
And my mom's like, "You didn't go to class?" I'm like, "No, shut up.
Listen.
I won a car on The Price is Right and a Murray Feist 3-piece lamp set." We went back. A couple of the young ladies that you see on the show, we'll tell you about this later, off air. They came back to Northridge to party with us.
Oh,
We had
how
the greatest
fun.
party of all time that night. But everyone thought I was rich.
Wow.
So I was buying. I didn't have any money except tips from Marie Callender's, but I thought I was rich.
He had a
So
pink
I
slip.
got the car,
can do some betting.
sold it for $16,000, paid $4,000 taxes, walked away with $12,000.
Okay.
And it aired the day we all graduated. So back at our condos where we lived, there was like 8 families all came over to our house. Probably had 70 people in our condo because we had to tape it because
What
we
a-
were graduating
What
and
a
watched
great
The Price is Right.
memory. What a great memory. Wait, on that show, did you get to the showcase showdown?
No, Frank from Florida spun $1.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay. Now
crushed me.
that'll mean something. But that my wife Christine's like, ask him if he got
So,
to the showcase
and by the way,
showdown.
ironically, Darren and Pete helped that guy, Frank, which would have been me, win the double because they knew they were
they
within
knew.
$1,000. Yes,
They're like
they
savants.
carried him, and he won the whole both. He won a motorhome, and
Oh, my
so
goodness.
the whole thing has been people don't realize, but the 15 of us, those guys have gone on
is-
for the last 25 years, going, dude, if Geeter had gone to the showcase, we would have won a motorhome. I mean, dude, you should have seen the gifts back then.
We got to go deeper into that. We're going
I know.
to do a series. Just we're
You
gonna
know
break
what I've
down-
always thought, by the way?
What's
I don't
that?
know. I've always thought one day I would be the host of Price is Right. What a story that would be.
that would be
Guy wins a car,
be full
first
circle.
time ever on TV, and he ends up being the host.
And you're so fortunate because Bob didn't. How long did he last?
man,
Maybe
a
like
long
another.
time,
He did. He kept
Well, I
going.
mean, who Drew Carey does it? Who doesn't know?
Yeah, but wow. But you were there in the heart of it.
Heart of it.
People are loving that.
I was there. Yeah, that was '94.
That is something.
Some stuff started to come out right after. Bob got in a little
Yeah.
hot water.
But he made some ground with the animals.
He
so
did.
That's
He
good.
did. He
so
did.
that's
Loved-
good.
loved
you
the-
know,
loved the
You know,
animals.
it's like you get in trouble.
Neuter your
and
pets.
yeah. And you want to you put out a lot of good content to
Yep.
beat down the bad content. That's
Exactly.
what Bob did.
That's
with
what
the
Bob
pets.
did.
Mhm.
100%.
We'll give him that. You doing a lot of coaching concurrent
Yeah.
while you're at Northridge, right?
Yeah, I
So
was.
you got
coaching.
pulled in when you're still
Yeah.
at Northridge.
Man,
'Cause I started
18
young
18
too.
years old. Yeah.
I started real young. Yeah.
Assisting at club for JOs and all that stuff. And I went back to my old high school and helped Coach Slattam, who I mentioned before. I was kind of destined to be a basketball coach at Crespi. That's my job was lined up. Paul Muff had basically hired me. I was a senior at Northridge. I was graduating in 6 months. I was going to go back and be the freshman basketball coach. And Paul passed away late January of 1994.
And that really affected you.
It did. I never went back on that campus, which was really weird until
And he was your coach for 4 years, right? Or 3
no,
years?
only 2.
Oh.
But he was just very instrumental, and he
he
was
was
my
a-
guy. But I would go back and coach every summer after that. So
Right.
for his camp. And what was ironic about it all was he dies. My volleyball career ends up at Stanford. We lost to Pepperdine in regionals. I cried my eyes out. My mom had to come get me out of the locker room. I knew it was my last ever sporting event. And it was Tim Jensen and Jared Elliott. Jared Elliott was a very good friend of mine at the time. And Jared was coaching at Marymount. He wasn't at SC and then Texas. And he said, dude, my buddy Craig Forsyth can't coach this 17s team anymore. Can you come coach them for the last 2 months and take them to the festival? And I went. Dude, I couldn't even get off the couch. And those girls, I credited them. They rallied me. I went, and I fell in love with coaching. We had a great run at festival. And next year I was coaching with Tim and Jared, and I never looked back. That's why I didn't go to Crespi. Wow. I ended up going to – Tim got me a job at Campbell Hall, and I was at Campbell Hall. The next time I went to Crespi was 4 years later when Campbell Hall, we went and smashed Crespi.
Okay. Yeah, you went back in.
Yeah, went back and beat them.
You know, it's interesting because I've seen different parallels. You did the same thing I did, calling down games, that kind of stuff. But I lost a really close friend when I was like 19. Yeah,
it changes things.
It's a difficult time to deal with that because you're not fully developed mentally.
100%.
And so you don't understand all of it. But the one saving grace was I was coaching at the time.
Yeah.
And for some reason, that kind of spirit of athletics, helped the whole process.
Jenny, you knew Mike Whitmarsh. I mean, Mike was one of my best friends in the world. And Karch, very tight with Mike. I mean, we all were. And he was a guy I talked to every day. And when he passed away, that's 10 years ago now. I mean, it's affected me to this day. Like, so it doesn't even matter. Like 19 is so young to lose someone. So is 31. So is 40. It's crazy when you lose that guy. Or 19's way too young. Yeah, to lose a buddy. So
you're hooked on coaching, and I think
that was my path.
Around 95.
Yeah.
So you're hanging with your boys in Cabo.
Yeah, hanging with that.
And they throw you a mic.
Yeah, threw me a mic.
Because it's what is it?
It was a 6-man tournament. One female, 5 guys. Easter weekend. AVP had a break.
Okay.
I went down for the first time. They throw me a mic. Our team had already lost. I was on a team with like Parker Blackman. That's my first time meeting him. All these volleyball guys are down there. I mean, Steve Timmons is down there. Whitty's down there. Dodd's down there. I mean, everybody.
Having a good time.
And having a great time. And I was out in the water, and a couple guys came out there and go, Geeter, they need a guy to announce.
You're only a year removed from the Price is Right.
Never announced in my life. Grabbed the microphone and just started like doing the Macarena was new. Started doing that. I learned it one night on that trip. So I did that at the break. I was just drinking, doing all different voices, Marv Albert or whatever. I had no idea what I was doing.
Yeah.
And fast forward, so for a couple of years, I started then doing Billy Berger, had a little tour I would help out.
Wow.
Small time announcing. Fast forward 2 years, and Jim Marico and Sam Lagana, both their wives were pregnant. They weren't going to be able to do every tournament.
And these are the AVP
announcers, sorry.
Pro domestic.
Yeah. They were the AVP announcers, MCs. And John Stevenson, who passed away not too long ago, Johnny the Steve ran the AVP. He was looking for someone else to help. And Matt Unger and Kevin Martin were like, our boy Geeter would be great at it. And he goes, Geeter.
Too, huh?
Yeah, he goes, Geeter, Kevin Martin. He goes, who, Geeter? And they go, he was the guy in Cabo. And John Stevenson was there. He goes, I love that guy. So I went and met John. Jim Marico came and met with me. And I met Jim. Jim and I talked in the parking lot for about an hour and a half. And Jim let me go on tour with him, basically, and taught me everything.
Jim was also a lawyer, right?
Yeah, still is.
He's an attorney, and but he would do this on the weekends.
Do it on the weekends.
I knew him.
And Sam had been a long-time voice, too, so they would split.
I knew both Sam and Jim because I was the women WPVA guy.
Yeah, of course.
And they were the AVP.
Yeah.
And they split that tour, and I always used to envy that they didn't have to go to every event.
Oh, yeah, because they could split.
Because on WPVA, I had to go to every one.
And Sam was our announcer at Northridge. He worked at Northridge.
And now Sam is the announcer for the Rams at the Coliseum?
Yeah, and he works at Pepperdine.
That's
great fundraiser.
So you grab the mic and you hit it big there, and then you're learning under Jim. So here's something that is interesting to me. Obviously, you're learning and you're getting opportunities and you're getting those reps. I always credit those reps because you for so long in the course of a day have to speak correctly. Because you're in a microphone.
It's not play-by-play per se, but it is, if that makes sense. You're not concise. On TV calling a game, but you're doing play-by-play. And
in between the serves.
Color commentating. Yeah.
And you got to do it in between serves because you're not supposed to interrupt. One of the things, and then of course, our big moment as MCs is the introductions. So the introductions come, and I just followed in line with my uncle, who was the boxing announcer, Jimmy Lennon.
Yeah.
And basically it was like, from ding, ding, from this, from this.
Everyone's got their style.
Now you have a lot of moxie, my friend.
Yeah.
You have a lot of chutzpah.
It probably helped me.
How did you
It got me every job.
With all of this?
It might have got me every job.
Yes.
I mean, if you think about it, it's the only. It was what people knew.
It's
you know,
a stream for people who haven't heard you do introductions for AVP.
yeah.
One, they got to look it up. Two, I'm going to play one.
Yeah.
I'm going to play just a quick one
Yeah,
right
yeah.
here. So we kind of, but it's a stream of consciousness.
You know, it's funny. It
doesn't
started
seem like you could plan these.
the
things.
first time I ever went down there and did it on the sand was maybe year 2. Well, in year 1, I would go down with Jim. He would be up top, and I'd be down low, and I'd be yelling at everybody, and I would just breakdance and have some fun and worm and do all this stuff. The next year, we were at Louisville, Kentucky at a bar, and there was a court in the middle of the bar, and the bar surrounded the court, and it was an 8-team thing, and Hav were all there raging. And I'll never forget, it was the finals. It was Whitty and Canyon versus Dax and Todd. And they're like, go down on the sand and do the introductions. And I went down on the sand, and all of a sudden the TV camera was on, and I was yelling in the camera, and I introduced the guys because I used to do intros, and I knew them all. So I would go. My whole thing was just go, and I would long intros like this, and I knew stats. It's from the years of calling my own games in the backyard. Like I said. So I had all these things in my head.
You'd get very close to them.
Oh yeah,
point
right in their
at 'em.
face. And it just. But by the way,
just
so
takes a lot of guts
in
to do
that
that.
moment. I don't think I rarely ever did a final not on the sand again because TV was like, oh, we're going to start doing that. And then it became part of the show. And then it became like players would come out and dance with me. I mean, it took a life of its own.
So the one
it got me to the Olympics.
The one I like is this one in Chicago. And it's a David
so
Bowie song's playing.
Can I tell you about this real quick?
Please.
So this
So
just
I'm going
so
to
you
pause
know,
it. But you
under
said
pressure,
yeah.
I would do this before Game 3s in the final.
Oh, I see.
So Game 3's in the final. Okay. I loved this song. And it just started as a rant one time. Jeremy played it, and it took a life of its own where people would get to the finals, and they'd be like, dude, you didn't do Under Pressure. So it started like, oh, my God. Like, because you got to kind of – so when Game 3s would come in a big moment, I would sit on
This is
stage.
it.
I yell at Lance Briggs here from the Chicago Bears.
Yeah, and so you got a couple of Bears, and this is what you do so well is you will just start working the crowd while you concurrently introduce and while you will give them a little tidbit of yourself. I think you say something to the effect here, you want to learn about Under Pressure? I'm the one who's got a little baby and a pressure, and these people are going to be standing behind me. It's so funny.
He starts laughing because I talk about him losing the Super Bowl. He's dying.
So
the whole thing is I would build up the 4 players, and I talk about the pressure of the moment. And in that time, my Millie was – who plays in all the AAUs, and you guys all know now, Millie was a baby, and it was on that trip where we was like, I was getting the stroller through, and this lady behind me was all pissed, and I'm like, do you even know what pressure is? Like, this is pressure.
This is pressure.
The kid it got a poopy diaper, and I'm trying to get I couldn't get the stroller up and get it through the.
People are mad at you.
Yeah, so they thought it was
then
funny.
You brought that in there?
Yeah, I brought it in there.
So. Yeah,
and by the way, it's funny you say this. I started to do Under Pressures from the sand. They had me going down. So it just all took a life of its own. And what was cool about introductions for players is you're right there, and it would be in my ear. They'd be like 3, 2, 1, and NBC would start with me.
I remember
and
that.
It would be me on the crowd.
Now, you did that a whole lot more than I did. I had basically was on tape with I was basically on tape with WPVA stuff.
Yeah.
So theoretically, if you screw up, you could do it over. But there was the times where you're either on CBS or ABC where that was intense.
Yeah.
Those guys are cursing.
No, it's
and you can't
if
talk
you don't
back
know
to
it,
them.
Bob's
and they're
panicking.
yelling in your ear.
No, it's gnarly.
It is. It's kind of crazy. And
it's
they
gnarly.
keep talking while you're doing your introductions. They're yelling at you how many seconds you have. I mean, I was just young. I hadn't done that. But you did
either.
NBC all the time.
But here's the thing. Like, when I first started, I didn't know any of that. I didn't go to school for it.
Nope,
they were
me
new
neither.
year. I had no idea. First time I ever did play-by-play for Fox for a Pac-10 game. Holly McPeak, it was her first game. I had the producer yelling at me. I had no idea what he was talking about. I faked it. And you basically faked my whole career, and here I am sitting across from Denny. But it's funny because those moments, a week later, we were in Beijing. And I was announcing the Olympics. A week after that, Under Pressure you just saw. And Carrie and Misty were in the finals. This is literally a week later we left. So a few weeks after because they're in the finals, so you go for that whole 2 weeks. And it was pouring rain. And the Chinese player in the finals, gold medal match, she's down. They're down, and she knows Carrie and Misty are about to win. She goes for the medical timeout. She would always lay there like she was dead. and there's a monsoon. It's pouring rain. And she's down for like 10 minutes. So I go out, and I just start going. and I'm yelling at all. I'm 20,000 people. I'm doing my whole thing. I got Vince Vaughn right there in the corner. I'm driving the bus back to Cali. He's everyone. What I didn't know was all the Today Show people were in the crowd. Al Roker, Meredith, they're producers. So all of a sudden I get a call that night. Well, they actually called the USA Volleyball, and they got in touch with me, and they're like, they want you on the Today Show tomorrow night.
What?
After Phil and Todd win, they're going to be on as well. They want you on. They want you to introduce them. And I'm like, I brought one nice outfit. I swear I put this into existence. I dreamt this. I had a feeling. I had one nice outfit in case something good happened. Man, I put those slacks on, that shirt. I'd never been more nervous in my life. Wow. So I'm sitting there, and they taped it at night. Live at night. So I'm in my truck. I got a truck. It's like the women's soccer team and me. They had just won gold. Al Roker comes in. He's like, Geeter, awesome worm you did. Yeah. I'm like, oh my God, what is happening? And by the way, we're about to go on. And I'm just like, and I'll never forget, Todd Rogers looks over at me and he goes, dude, what is wrong with you? I've never seen you like this. I go, dude, I don't know. Like, I'm freaking out. So all of a sudden I walk up. We're in a commercial. They put the earpiece in and they're like, we're coming to you, and you're coming in. This is NBC. This is Today's Show.
They give you like 30 seconds?
Yeah, they're coming to you, and Meredith's going to throw to you to introduce Todd and Phil. So all of a sudden she's like, hey guys, Todd, Phil Dahlhauser, blah, blah, blah. They're like, we got a surprise for you. We brought an old friend. They already knew I was there, but throw to me, and I go into the whole thing. And I'm doing the player intro.
What'd you do?
Oh, I did the whole thing. I kind of gave their intro. I was like, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, from the day he dropped out of the womb, the doctor looked at the nurse looked at the doctor, and the doctor said, this man, named the Thin Beast, will dominate the world. And I did the Todd Rogers, and I did their whole thing. And I all of a sudden, I threw the mic and did the worm, and I got back up in my slide. I looked at Al Roker, and that was for you, Al. And I mean, it was like electric, and I have goosebumps thinking about it because it was a moment that I like literally dreamt of. And I'm done. And Meredith and Ann are like, "Oh, this is great." They're like, Phil and Todd are like, "Oh my God, Phil and Todd had seen it a million times."
So they're like,
and Meredith's like, "Aren't you gonna miss him?" And this is when it hit me that people don't even have a clue about beach volleyball. This is NBC.
They thought they were going to graduate.
No, Todd's like, no, we're seeing him next week in Cincinnati. That's what he said. Like, we're on your air, dummy. Yeah, they didn't even know. So here's the deal. I'm like feeling good. I'm not nervous anymore. I'm like, it's the greatest night of my life. I'm going to go party my ass off. Let's go. And all of a sudden, I'm like, getting a hold of the wife. She's watching live. And all of a sudden, like, they come over to me. They're like, producers want to know if you'll stay the whole 3 hours.
Ooh.
I stayed the whole time. I brought us out of break one time and gave intros. So they're like, we want you to do it for Al, Meredith, and Ann. And I go, well, then you got to give me info. So I want bullet points. What have they done while they're on this trip? Wow. I got bobsledding champion Al Roker. I got all the crazy, and I did full introduction for them.
That is so good.
The last half hour in Beijing, it starts with me, and I'm like, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, to the audience, and I'm like, it's the last half hour in Beijing. Yeah, I know.
Does this live somewhere?
I mean, it's funny as I have it somewhere on a DVD. And I was funny. I was looking for it the other day, and I didn't go deep enough. But I think it used to be on a couple websites, so I know I have the link.
I'd love to.
Dude, it was like one of my most famous. It was on my reel for years.
When you got there and you were hired to announce, did they know they were getting the full Geeter, or were they trying to put a cap on what you did?
Olympics?
Yeah.
That's such a good question. So, the guy, the Austrian announcer was there as well, and we were supposed to trade off, and he was a really nice guy, but it was funny. The head of the FIVB, Angelo Squayo, it was weird. He came to me at the end. He like wanted me to do the finals. I felt really bad because I did the women. I wanted Tom to do that. So I ended up doing both finals. We were totally trading off until the end.
Well, these things happen.
It happens.
It's the Olympics.
Yeah. He was more like he wasn't the, like Angelo wanted.
So
I mean, when I went and met him a year before,
the jurisdiction of Angelo, because it was more FIVB than it was IOC that was calling the shots.
The year before, I went to Stade with my wife. She was pregnant with Millie. We went on a 10-day trip. We flew, we flew from Chicago over, and it was the World Championships, and I met with Angelo, and he said, can you go do something for me? And Jake Gibb and Rosie were playing, and I took the mic, and I went out in Stade. I auditioned for 3 minutes, and they had this guy, Sasha, was playing for Austria, and he was a monster, and I just went up to his face, and I was screaming at him. He knew who I was from AVP, but he never met me, but those Jake and Rosie were like, this is our guy. So I was just screaming at him. He's a monster of a man, and I just got the crowd going, basically gave the mic back, and Angela's like, you want to do the Olympics? I'm like, I'm in. We went on our way to Italy.
Man.
True story.
I got asked.
I've been real lucky, man.
Yeah.
I gotta
You
be
know,
honest.
you talked
I've
about
had
something.
some
You said
moments, dude.
I heard you say something about always say yes.
Yes.
And then figure it out, right?
That's what I always tell
And,
college kids and high school kids.
And
Say yes.
I said no to the Atlanta Olympics.
In '96?
Yeah, because they weren't going to pay me.
Well,
Okay,
then you're
so-
okay to say no there. That's
But
BS, dude.
they were just going, no, you come out on your own dime. find your
Imagine
own
that.
place.
They're asking you to do the Olympics for free. And by the way, the Olympics don't
Yeah.
pay much at all.
But it's
A few
more of
grand,
I
but
wish
I
I
know.
would have said yes.
Back then,
You know,
and now
my
you
uncle,
look
the
back.
boxing announcer,
Yeah.
he said no to the first Rocky because
No
they weren't
way.
going to pay him enough.
And gave it to Buffer, or who did it? One of those guys?
No, it was, if you've watched the first Rocky, it's some anonymous.
No.
But he's he's in Rocky 3, my Uncle Jim.
Dude.
So I do have his action figure up there. But he said no to
See,
Rocky
but that's
1.
hard,
and
Denny,
he
because
said, at the
96,
time-
you're trying to make a living, dude, also. And like, but
Yeah, it
now
was
you look
90 yeah.
back.
Right. I wish I would have done it. But I didn't.
I always wanted to do one.
But always say yes. That kind
Always
of
say
hit
yes.
home. So wait, around this time now, you're married?
Got married in 04, but
04? Okay.
started dating Jess in 2000. So I had a couple years of announcing. I mean, I was
Under your belt.
26,
Yeah.
27. It was then when I went to do a class in 99 at Santa Monica City College with Lou Riggs. So I started TV at 28 years old.
Love that you were a Corsair for a short time.
Yeah, I mean, I was where?
Corsairs. Santa Monica College?
Yeah, that's their name, the Corsairs?
Yeah.
Of course you know that.
Well, I went there for 10 years.
Yeah.
I put in my 10 years, got my associate arts
Dude, I was the
degree.
oldest guy in the class. Me, Lee LeGrand, and Dane Blanton, another
Oh,
volleyball
boy.
names. We went to that, took a little broadcasting class, and it
So-
set me on my way.
Something about that hit me too. I heard you talking somewhere, and it's another thing where I was like, "Yep, that's exactly what I tell those that are starting
Yeah.
families. Always say yes to your kids when they want to play.
Yeah.
Like, don't be the one who drives them into the sport. Don't be the
Yeah.
one who puts all the pressure. But the second they say, "Hey, you want to go pepper? Hey, do you want to go play?"
Yeah.
No matter what your situation is,
Yes.
your answer is
Yeah, that was always my rules. Like, if they want to bump or pepper, they call it bumping, and they're little. You want to bump the ball? Yes. But I would do some funny things like, I'd be here.
Would you introduce them?
No, I'd see Millie down the hall. This is when she was younger, and I just kind of like roll the ball. Pretend I didn't, and all of a sudden the ball would be there, and she'd see it, be like, "Daddy, you want to bump? Sure, let's go." So there's a way you can, you kind of
I used to,
manipulate the situation.
I think I told the story in the podcast that just aired recently. My son Vaughn, when he was little,
Yeah.
loved wrestling, and he would put on a Hawaiian shirt, but he'd keep
Yeah.
it open, and he called himself Tropical Storm.
Oh,
He'd go,
my
Dad, introduce me. And then he would go out, and then I would go through this long introduction.
Yeah.
And now, welcome to the front room,
That's so
Tropical Storm.
funny.
And then he would fight some pillow for a while.
Now,
but it's
by
these
the way-
kind of things that you want your children, you don't want to push your children into the you have to win and be great at this. You want to push them into this is fun.
Wasn't Vaughn a stud volleyball player?
Oh yeah, he was really good.
Loyola?
Loyola won a couple titles there.
Yeah,
and then
right?
UC San Diego.
UC San Diego.
He destroyed BYU for like a national record, or at the time UCSD record amount of kills.
Was Vaughn?
Got National Player of the Week? The whole
Where
thing.
did I
It
see
was fun.
Vaughn playing recently? Oh, I'll tell you where we were.
Playing golf, probably.
No.
Because he's in commercial real estate. So
No,
it's-
I thought we were at the beach. Does he go down to Del Mar
he does
in
sometimes,
September
yeah.
with the Bowlies?
Yes, he probably
We
does.
all played a game.
Yeah, there you go.
Yep.
So I just liked hearing that. It sounds. One of the things I'd always say to my kids when I was coaching them, when they'd ask about the game, is, "You want me to talk like a dad or like a coach?"
Oh, I like that.
So I gave them the power to. And as a dad, my point was, be a good team member, have good
Yeah.
sportsmanship.
That's good.
But then as a coach, it's like, yeah, I would have taken you out too.
Yeah.
Yeah. But it sounds like you've strode that line, although there's a couple of us that are
Getting
in the
tougher.
room, including my producer, who might notice that there was one parent on the exclusive and elite AAU beach volleyball tour that might come into the tent to check out the seeds.
By the way,
see who's
do you know how
playing
many
in
I've
the bracket.
fixed?
None.
I have fixed 2 in my lifetime, both last year, back-to-backers. One was USA Volleyball.
Of course.
They did it wrong. I knew it. What are you supposed to do?
Lay back and let it play.
Nope. Told them.
Send your daughter in to make the change.
So yeah. So and then one time I had to go to Christine. It wasn't Christine was sitting there, I believe, and I was like, they had us third in the pool and we were first in the pool.
Love it.
So
Okay, that's fair.
It's
Good for you.
it's different.
I
mean,
I
to
like
me, I'm
giving
like,
you a hard
but
time.
they had us losing a game instead of winning. The girl, who, it's a 11-year-old girl wrote down the wrong score. So I'm like, God, how are we? So I had to go say like, what? And I just showed actually first. So, definitely, it's a curse.
And your
It's
daughter,
a curse knowing what bracket's gonna. I know it before everybody else.
Your
It's amazing.
daughter carries on traits, if not curses, in the pregame meetings. She has plenty to say about lots of things. So 2006, 2008, that whole range, you start getting play-by-play jobs. How did you make the transition
before that, actually,
from a MC guy to a play-by-play guy? How did that happen?
So in 2000, 2001. I'm starting to get some play-by-play stuff with CSTV, which is now CBS College Sports, doing like a women's basketball game, a lot of women's volleyball, 2002, 2003. 2004, Fox Sports West names me the play-by-play for women's volleyball Pac-10. Did that for a year. Then the next year they're giving me high school football. So I was the high school football play-by-play. So then all of a sudden that's when the ball starts rolling. So I would say 05 is when 04, 05, ball's rolling. By 06, now it's really rolling. Sideline reporting, a lot of play-by-play. And it was 2006 that I quit my athletic director teaching job.
Got it. And you were AD at what school?
Wildwood.
At Wildwood.
Yeah.
I think I remember that.
So I left, and I was 35 years old. Basically said I'm doing TV full-time at 35.
Way to go.
Yeah.
That's following.
It was definitely a leap of
following,
faith. Leap of faith, man.
I get that.
I mean,
I get it.
talk about betting on yourself, or I don't know. I don't know if it's stupid
I'm in the
or not.
same world right
it
now.
worked, but yeah, it's it was like I said, I had a lot of at that time, Fox Sports had Pac-10, they had the Dodgers, they had the Angels, they had the Lakers, they had the Clippers, so there was tons to do, and I was on one of their guys that they used for everything. So I got a lot of gigs, and then ESPN, I started doing some stuff. CBS College Sports. There's all of a sudden the Longhorn Network starts in 2011, and I have an in because Jarrett's the coach. So I was doing everything, anything I could.
What led to the Laker job? How did that leapfrog there?
So they started their own network, Time Warner Cable Sports at the time, started a new regional sports network, and they left Fox Sports. And I was full-time when it happened with Fox West.
Okay.
And in that time, they started kind of recruiting me a little bit, and I was maybe more going to leave and do sideline for the Lakers. Little did I know that they were never really going to offer me because they didn't think I would leave a big job to go just sideline. I didn't know that. My bosses told me later.
And you've always been a Laker fan?
Always been a Laker fan, so I was like, oh, my God, this could be a huge opportunity. So I was kind of meeting with them on the side. And then all of a sudden, whoever they were, the network was going to start October 1st. This is in July. Whoever they were looking at.
What year, Geeter?
2012.
Okay.
Whoever they were looking at to be the host and the anchor, it fell through. And in that meeting, there were 6 people. And one of the guys was a guy named Jared Stacy, who just left our company. And he and I had worked together. And he just told the story when he left the company. He went over to Amazon to start their sports department. He told the story at his going away thing, and he talked about how relationships throughout the business are important, and how he and I were doing games on ESPN2 in the dead of winter in Idaho State versus who knows who, Utah State.
The Vandals.
And I would be the play-by-play with Holly McPeak as my analyst, and Jarrett was producing. And he's in that meeting, and he goes, Chris McGee can do that job. And all those guys were like, yeah. And they called Tim Harris at the Lakers because Tim was a big advocate of mine. They said, well, what would you think of Geeter for the hosting anchor job instead of sideline? And Tim said, absolutely. Next thing you know, I got a text from Tim saying, how would you like to be the face of the network instead?
Heck, man?
More money, no travel, happy wife. I was literally in Tahoe on a trip in July, and I was like, ah! We all started celebrating. That's how I got the job. By the way, I hadn't done studio, but what do you say?
You say yes.
You say yes.
And well-deserved because, you've – it's like when people go, wow, that comic actor can do drama.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, of course you can do that. You've done, in effect, that in a roundabout way for a long time.
It's acting. You find a way to do it
and then you come in and so now
I've learned
you're
a lot.
getting to sit with some of these guys that are the guys like D-Fish.
That's the thing that you'll probably
and James Worthy
understand the most is these guys that we loved in the 80s and the 70s. And, I'll never forget. I tell this story all the time to kids. I was we had this couch, and it was early, probably a month into the network. And on set was James, Byron, Kareem, and Rambus.
Wow.
And I'm doing like a talk with them. And my phone at the time, I had it in my pocket, and it was vibrating. Texts were going people were watching and texting, and it was pretty funny. And I'll never forget because a commercial break, and I look and I see my brother's text, and it said, "If I would have told you at 12 years old that you'd be sitting with
Those guys.
Worthy, Kareem." Jeez. Oh, it was Magic, my favorite. It wasn't Rambus. And Magic, who was my all-time, he goes, "You would have pissed your pants."
Yeah.
And I'm like, that amazing. So I've always told that
You're
story.
like, I'm pissing my pants.
Yeah. So it was amazing.
Did it also come with that? Did the Galaxy come with that as well? Is
So
that
yeah,
like a
because they're
package
part of the
deal or
network.
something?
Sparks are part of the network. So
Okay.
I had to learn how to host soccer, something I never played.
Was it tough
cared
going
about.
through the down years?
Yeah, brutal. You're the first face they see for all these losing seasons, and Twitter's coming of age, and message boards and things I didn't really know about, and all of a sudden people are calling you a hack, and people are MFing you, and people also are saying nice things, but there's things out there.
Yeah.
And you start to go, whoa, like I'm a Lake fan, you know what I mean? So I had to really get through a lot of that, wearing it emotionally on air and learning how to get through that. And then when Luke was the coach, who's also a good friend of mine, and he's getting hammered and people are coming after, I had to really – last year was tough on me.
Mm-hmm.
Really tough.
Because
It took
LeBron
effect
came, and then
yeah, and it was just a brutal year. He gets hurt, and everyone's blaming everybody and firing all the rumors, and Magic steps away, and it was just a brutal time. And I literally, like, my wife, I'll never forget talking last season. Like, she's like, "You're wearing this too much. Like, it's affecting you at home." And I'll never forget. It was April 9th. I stopped tweeting. The Lakers were done, and I walked away for a couple. I did the shows, but I stopped being emotionally. I detached a little bit emotionally. And I came back this season, and I've never felt like this before. I'm clear-headed. I'm not focused on wins or loss. I'm just calling what I see. I'm happy either way. Of course, I want them to win. Don't get me wrong. They're 35-9. It's like the greatest thing ever. It's the easiest job in the world when they're winning, and everyone's watching now. The ratings are sky high. But it was a mindset that changed for me.
When those things were going in the wrong direction, how much of it are you a journalist, and how much are you restricted? In other words, can you comment on Magic stepping away?
That's a great question. So one thing about the job that I have is you have to remember we are partners with the Los Angeles Lakers. Now, they aren't the ones that pay me. The network pays me. Those are my bosses, but we're partners with them.
By proxy, yeah.
And my job is to tell the truth, but also spin things in a good. I'm always going to try to find the positives and things, and that's just me by nature anyway. But when they're losing and they're winning 18 games, you got to also tell the truth. So I did a pretty good job of that. I always thought navigating through that. I think in the beginning it was hard, but we learned our way of how to have fun and tell the truth, be critical without hammering.
Sure.
So yeah, that time, by the way, didn't do one radio request. I shut everybody down. Not one TV request. I didn't do one thing on the Lakers. Didn't tweet. Didn't give an opinion from April 9th until training camp started.
Wow.
I stayed away.
So your head got clear.
By the way, it was the best thing ever. Like, what was I going to say on the radio? The only thing I could say would get me fired. Like, only thing I could do is make a mistake. Say something that maybe someone hears and goes, that didn't sound. You know what I mean? Like, who knows? I mean, I was frustrated. I was, my friend was gone. Also, Luke was gone, and the Lakers were in turmoil, and I had opinions, but I also said, like, dude, this is not my job to give an opinion on that. It really isn't. So step away, and I did.
One of the things
and now it's a blast.
I often do is, because I've seen you there, is go to these hot yogas, and people
buddy.
across the country don't always understand, but it's like 115-degree room.
Yeah, it's
and
awesome.
You're lifting weights in there, and you're doing this thing.
So
but I went to one, and you're there, and so is Luke Walton.
Yeah.
And there comes a point where the instructor will go, okay, so how do your neighbor or high five your neighbor? And most of the time, nobody does.
Yeah.
They just kind of like stare down. And both of you like lit the room up. Like you turned around, you're like high-fiving three people. And Luke was acting like such a coach.
Oh, yeah,
He's
Luke's
just like, hey,
unbelievable.
good job. Good job over there. And I was like, wow, this is way
He's
better.
actually really fun to
when
work
you have
out
the announcer and
he's
coach
so
of the
fun.
Lakers.
He really is a great guy.
Yeah.
And it's awesome.
It was so funny. You guys lit the room up. I was like, we got this announcer and the coach of the Lakers.
I high-five my neighbors today. That's funny you said that.
So today's sports.
Yeah.
You're watching your daughter, and you're watching, and you can look at it from your perspective.
Daughters, even my little one's
Your
starting to play
daughters.
stuff. Yeah. Luca.
Single sport athletes.
Yeah.
It's a tough time to be, I think, on some level as a young athlete because you get so much adult pressure to
Yeah.
focus on one sport.
Bums me out.
And there's a downside to it, which is that overuse syndrome.
Bums me out.
And then there's the downside mentally.
Yeah.
And how do you go about this with your youngsters? Let
Well-
alone you're in a position to speak to it.
Luca still plays basketball. She's in 3rd grade. Millie quit hoops after 4th, quit soccer after 4th, and went straight because now there's beach and indoor. And it's like, it bummed me out, I'll be honest with you, on a little bit of a level because I just miss it. I miss having those other sports. But it's crazy. It was like that's what she wanted to do, and there's not enough time to do them all. It's crazy now. So, like, I didn't know the beach would hit like this, where it becomes all summer. There's major tournaments, and it affects your travel schedule with your friends. It's. I mean, our lives the last couple of years have been built around, and it's insane, really, to think about it like that. So it is. You hit it on the head. There's some downsides to it, and it's funny. Like, I have girls that I know that are training 3 days a week indoor, 2-3 days a week beach, and I'm like, and they're like, well, how come Millie's not in a beach club yet? And I'm like, because she's playing indoor club. And she plays tournaments on the weekends, or she'll train once in a while with Patty or Holly or whatever, and it's cool. She's 12.
It's an interesting landscape out there because I think what eventually has to happen is there's already plenty of data on the overuse syndrome.
Yep.
But it seems like there's almost going to have to be a generation that grows up from being overused that then stops the next generation from being overused because that's really what it is. They're wearing down those muscles that they use repetitively.
I don't want my oldest to burn out.
Too many ribs.
And it scares me, and I want it to still be fun, and so I battle back and forth with it because like, where do you draw the line on a lesson or a private or a semi or something because she wants to go? I don't know. I battle with it, and you guys are in it, and you see it. AAU tournaments, CBVAs, whatever, like you guys see it more than anybody. We're in the hotbed of it. So for people that listen to this outside of Southern California,
you would understand football in Texas. You would understand basketball in Indiana
at a young
Kentucky,
age.
At that young age, like because you're in pads at 5 years old in Texas.
It's like Little League, man. People are out there, and the parents are, and they're fighting for partners.
But out here, out here in Southern California, it's volleyball.
It's volleyball. It's volleyball for girls especially.
For girls especially,
and it's a lot of parents that are like, where we live in a society where it's like you want everything now. I want to keep up with the Joneses. Oh, this person's training. I've had so many. Oh my God, they're training here. She looks so good, and I'm like, I try to tell these parents. I'm always like, guys, like everyone develops differently. You improve at your own rate. Like she's been playing a year, so she's obviously going to have a huge jump. Like, you know what I mean? It's hard to explain. So I guess I'm kind of over trying to educate so many family friends of our family where I just go, I can't do it anymore.
You have a unique perspective in that you've probably interviewed, and certainly I've had multiple conversations with Kobe.
Yeah,
and
for
you're
sure.
close with Karai.
Yeah,
and these are two unbelievably transcendent players in their respective sports, but they both played a lot of sports growing up.
Carrie too.
And Carrie too.
I look at Carrie.
Yeah.
Carrie loved baseball, played hoops.
Right.
Played hoops in high school.
And that's something.
But also there wasn't the beach thing really for them back then, like too much. And that's,
you
would talk to Butch, and he'll say, Butch May, for those that don't know, that's Misty May Trainer's father. And Butch was a great volleyball mind and coach, and his wife and Barbara, they raised her on the courts. And, but it's funny. Butch is like, she doesn't have any really medals from 12 years old. There also wasn't that many opportunities.
No, there wasn't. So you're playing in adult tournaments.
Millionaire Friends played in 30 tournaments probably in 2019. Yeah. When you count AAU, CBVA,
all of them.
ABP.
Yeah.
It's a lot of tournaments.
Speaking of a tournament.
Yeah.
One that's a lot of fun that's unique to Southern California is the Manhattan, what's known as the Manhattan Six-Man, right? So that's beach volleyball, and it's adult. It used to be a lot more adult than it is now.
Now there's a junior one.
Moving down on it. But tell the listeners a little bit about Team Fletch.
Team Fletch started in 1995, and it was a group of friends from this area, Manhattan Beach, Hermosa Beach, Santa Monica, the Palisades. And it was really just a group of guys that kind of, some grew up together, some played college together, and then we kind of came from different walks of life. And we created Team Fletch because we all loved the movie Fletch. We were all boys. And the Six-Man is a tournament, unlike any other, if you want to Google it and YouTube it, because you dress up in outfits. Right. So our outfits, because we all loved the Lakers, was Team Fletch. Remember in the dream sequence,
dream
he's
sequence.
a Laker with the fro. So
Yeah.
we all wore afros and Laker jerseys.
So
and it
good.
just started as like a group of us, and it just grew.
And
it
you
grew.
got some good players.
And
so
we won.
So
we
you'd
won
be late, and
we've won 5 titles.
everybody be watching you
in 20
late.
years.
Oh, that's hilarious.
Yeah.
And Luke Walton would play for you.
And then as it grew, Luke came over, Richard Jefferson. We started
Yes.
getting NBA guys. Pete Carroll was on our team for a while. I mean, Kurt Rambis,
That's
James
so fun.
Worthy.
That's so fun.
Yeah.
No, I wanted to make sure that got in. There's something I do want to explore. It's things like the Manhattan Six-Man, the Gillis, what we did with the Venice Backyard Championships, things like that.
It's a culture.
that it really brings people
Family.
together.
Yeah.
That in a unique way that everybody remembers. Tell me a little about Tour de Pier.
Tour de Pier is awesome. Heath and Mandy Gregory, a family in Manhattan Beach. Our kids go to school together. They were like everybody touched by the disease of cancer. Mandy lost her brother, and they ended up starting this foundation with 2 other families, the Hirschbergs, the Mannheims, and also losing a parent and a sibling to cancer. And it was 7 years ago now. They had the first Tour de Pier, and it was spin bikes right by the Manhattan Beach Pier with a stage with instructors and 5 different hours. And you ride for 1 hour, so you get a team of 5 people, and you raise money for your bike. And each hour is a different theme: love, healing, whatever. And it just has grown to this. They made, I think, $300,000 the first year, $500 the next, $700. When I started emceeing it, the first year they cleared $1 million. Now they're up to $2 million a year. More and more people come in the community.
That's your 10%'s a lot bigger.
It's unreal. And now they do it in Seattle. Last year was the first year in Seattle.
That's great. What a
And
great
they
story.
raise money, and it is all. And but the people behind it, man, it's a year-round thing for them. I show up on the day, and I show up to the board meetings, and I'll help out. But they're the ones who really put the time and the effort into it and get behind it. And Why Do You Ride is Why Do You Ride is their campaign, and it's I ride for my aunt who passed away from breast cancer. I ride for my brother who passed away. It's everybody's got a story.
People need a spokesperson.
With that disease.
Just like the venerable Lakers franchise.
Yeah,
the greatest
man.
in all the sports needs a spokesperson out
Need
front.
it.
They need it there. All right, so I'm going to keep you for a little bit longer.
Yep.
Not too much, because I know you got to go host.
We got a pregame
But
show.
You ready? Some rapid-fire questions?
Love it.
And then a pop culture quiz, and I'll let you choose what you
Okay.
get. All right, so you
Gotcha.
ready?
Yep.
Rapid fire.
Yeah.
First pet.
Tiffany the dog.
First car.
Gold Dodge Omni. And when it died in the rain on Zelza Avenue, my sophomore year of college, the team made a card and gave it to me because the Dodge Omni was legendary.
Favorite sports team as a kid?
Lakers.
Nickname as a
Dodgers, too.
kid? Nickname as a kid?
You know what? Geeter was the only nickname I ever had, and it started my junior year of high school.
Favorite board game?
Ooh. Dude, we used to play Risk.
Nice. That's a good pull.
Yeah.
Favorite main dish? Wait, I got to go back up. I got to
Ooh.
tell you something because you'll like it.
Yeah.
Mine, Stratomatic.
Oh, no. Was that? Oh, no. Can I change?
Do you know Stratomatic?
Stratomatic baseball. My brother and I
best
played
ever.
my whole childhood. Hold on. Stratomatic baseball.
I'm going to do a whole
No, I'm
investigative
done. I'm done.
series.
Yeah. There should be a 30 for 30 on Stratomatic
Me and a
baseball.
friend of mine played almost an entire season. We
It's
did
why I know every
138
lineup for the
games.
Royals, Cardinals, Dodgers, and Yankees from
Crazy.
like
We got the
1975 to
classic
80.
ones with the 27 Yanks and the 53
Yes!
Dodgers. Brilliant. Okay. I knew you'd like that.
Yep.
Favorite main dish?
Dude, that's
You can do it.
favorite main dish.
Mhm.
God, it's changed over the years. How about this? If they're gonna,
Yeah.
if it's my last supper,
Right. Exactly.
dude, I gotta go a fat steak.
I don't. That's my choice.
I gotta
Favorite
go fat
dessert?
steak with some mac and cheese.
Ooh.
Oh,
All right. Favorite dessert?
mud pie.
Oh, I love it. Favorite movie?
Well,
I mean,
Fletch is up there, obviously. Hoosiers,
okay.
Shawshank Redemption. I got to give you just a couple different ones.
Favorite musical group?
Ooh, growing up, it was The Who and Cheap Trick. Now I've just really branched out. I love everyone, but I'd say like my favorite all-time band.
Mm-hmm.
Queen, man. I loved Queen growing up.
All right. Favorite author?
Ooh, Hemingway.
Favorite professional athlete?
Magic Johnson was my idol for many years.
Where'd you meet your wife?
Hermosa Open, 1997.
What was your first date?
2000. She graduated Santa Barbara. She was a little young then. She graduated Santa Barbara, started substitute teaching at Wildwood where I was at.
Okay.
And our first date was a triathlon. We watched the Kings Lakers, went to Good Stuff for lunch in Manhattan Beach, went to a movie that night.
Brilliant. What movie?
Don't even know. It was
Okay.
terrible. Ewan McGregor was in it. It was one of his worst.
What's your favorite word?
Gnarly.
What's your favorite quote?
When preparation meets opportunity.
That's luck. That's what they call it. Very good. Okay, you get one of 3 of the best television shows of all time as distinguished by the Sports Story staff. And then 3 questions. It's either going to be The Waltons. It was on CBS from 72 to 81. Emmys, Peabody. Right?
Yeah.
We know the story, right?
My favorite show is White Shadow.
Second choice, Magnum P.I., which is
Tom Selleck.
determined the
course.
top story.
Yeah.
I mean, the top show of all time.
Yeah.
Or The White Shadow.
No way.
Yep.
White Shadow. A lot of people know. Didn't have a long run, right?
No, it did not, but it
did not have a-
groundbreaking.
Groundbreaking.
Let's see, what did I write about it? Retired pro
Ken
basketball
Reeves.
player takes over a predominantly black team in South Central Los Angeles. It's a groundbreaking drama created by Bruce Paltrow.
Oh, yeah. Gwyneth's dad.
Gwyneth's dad. He also did like St. Elsewhere.
Coach Reeves apparently tore his ACL with the Bulls and could never play again.
Wow,
remember?
you're beating. Okay.
Yeah, sorry.
What was the name of the high school?
Carver.
Yep. For a bonus, name 3 of their players.
Well, the white guys were Salami, Goldstein, and Gomez. And then you have Jackson, Coolidge, Thorpe, Hayward.
You scored many. All right. What?
How'd I do?
That's so far so good. What NBA team did Ken Reeves play for?
Bulls.
Yeah. What college?
Oh! Whoa, was that ever in there?
Uh-huh.
Shoot.
I'll give you a hint.
Gosh darn it. How
I'll
do I
give you a
not know
hint. The
this?
principal that hired him played at the same college with him.
Sybil Buchanan and the other guy. She was the principal after he left. Oh, man.
Good. This is solid.
Dude,
that's
you may have
bonus.
got. I'm texting my buddies after this because I'm pissed. I don't. Can you give me like a? Is it a Cali school?
It's a Catholic school.
Is it? It's not a. Oh, not a California school.
Nope.
St. Joe's.
Boston College.
Darn it!
Yep. All right. What was the name of the character that played the vice president that Ken constantly clashed with?
Sybil
I
Buchanan.
mean, the vice principal, rather.
Sybil Buchanan was her name.
And this is a tough one. Can you name her real name?
No.
Joan Pringle. But
Darn it! I should be able. Yeah. You know why? Because back then it would like right across. That's a good
Ba-da-ba.
call by you.
Man, you did well.
Did I do
on
all right?
that. You did well on that. Hey, this was.
I love that you guys have that on the show. You guys.
Usually, I force Magnum down everybody's throat.
I know you
and they're
do.
like, "What?"
Dude,
And-
it's funny. Like I would know Magnum like that, and I loved Magnum. But I don't know, man. White Shadow and Fletcher.
I've
like
had
part of
2.
mine. I've gone
or
as
3
Coolidge
different
for Halloween.
Navy guys on and asked them, like, what branch of the military did Magnum serve for, and I'm like, he's your patron saint.
Dude, they didn't know.
Well, yeah,
Yeah.
especially the one guy who runs the Heroes Movement. He said
That's so
he got
funny.
home to Michigan and he started watching it, and he would start texting me. He goes, "Dude, I'm so in deep.
I'm so
I love
hooked."
These guys. Yeah.
Magnum was
I love these
legendary.
guys. Hey, you're legendary. Legit
Been a
that
pleasure,
you came
guys.
by.
Pleasure.
Super
and I
appreciate
made
it,
my
Geeter.
jumper.
Yeah, and you knocked the
Marley
jumper
knew
down.
exactly where
I'm
to
gonna
put
get
it though for me. I mean,
you know, I
right
think-
in my breadbasket.
I think Boley's in France right now watching his son play, but when he gets back,
Hayden's over there.
yeah,
That's awesome.
so he took off for that. But when he gets back, it's gonna be my first text.
Geeter,
you know, at least-
17 feet probably.
At least Geeter hit
right.
a
I was a little
17-footer.
past I was a little past the free throw line. Drained it
Love you, buddy.
in
Thank you.
motion. Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
So good.
That was fun.
Thanks for watching and listening. Sports Stories with Denny Lennon is produced by me, Marley Rice, and Christine Jinbo, and edited by bad boy Bobby McCall. Original music courtesy of Lennon Music Production, and original images courtesy of Sienna Lennon Photography. A big thank you to all of our contributors of the show. Sports Stories with Denny Lennon is a production of Sports Stories Inc. and available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, YouTube, or wherever you watch and listen. Make sure you press that subscribe button, give us a review, leave a comment. It will really help us grow the show. And you know what else will help us grow the show? Head on over to patreon.com/Denny Lennon to get some never-before-seen videos, pictures, interviews, and so much more. We are all over social media and constantly sending out clips on Facebook, conducting fun polls on Twitter, going live on Instagram, and more. To find all of our social media links, head on over to sportsstoriespodcast.com. SSDL proudly supports the My Stuff Bags Foundation and the Heroes Movement. Links to how you can support and help these foundations can be found on our website. We also want to give a big thank you to all of our partners of the show. So, as Coach Lennon would say, any questions, comments, or concerns, you can email me, Marley, at info@sportsstoriespodcast.com. We want to thank all of our followers and listeners, and we will see you next time.
Check it out, Buck.